during that time, I make it abundantly clear, if daddy doesn't do any loans, you will never go to Disney World again. And then I'm joking. No, I'm the same way, man. I leave the door shut, and when the door's shut, that's fine.
Which means I'll be running small balance and issuing my own term sheets next week.
Hey, I'll come out of retirement next week, bro. I still got suits. You hear me?
And it was like, are you going to be okay? I can issue a term. I know how to. I've made a loan before. I don't know DocuSign, but we'll go old school. We got this.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the BDO Show, a podcast for passionate BDOs wanting to level up their game with advice and stories from battle-tested BDOs. I'm your co-host, Emily Detour, and I'm here today with Alan Peterson, Ryan Kroge, Chris Hackney, and Sterling Birdsong. Before we start, I always want to remind everybody to share, like, subscribe. Go ahead and submit your topics over to the BDOshow@gmail.com. BDOs. Have you ever had a borrower bring in like a brother-in-law to do their life insurance? Doesn't end well, does it? We've all been there. When you require life insurance on your SBA loan, it's critical that you bring in a company that specializes in getting these policies in place for the SBA loans. The last thing you want is for life insurance to be the holdup. We all know that's a rookie mistake. SBA Protection Quick Close Life Insurance is the fastest, easiest way to secure the insurance protection that your borrower needs for their SBA loan. Their process is simple, hassle-free, and only takes a few minutes of your borrower's time. No lengthy paperwork, no complicated forms. They even have programs that don't require labs or doctor records for approval. And best of all, you will have the collateral assignment back in less than 24 hours. It's a no-brainer. Go to SBAprotection.com for more information or email Adam Bergen at adam@SBAprotection.com. All right, so today we are going to start the episode about talking about protecting your time. We'll see where it goes from there, and I'll invite Alan to start.
Thanks, Emily. I appreciate it. Good afternoon, everyone. Protecting your time is, in my opinion, a really good topic as we speak to the BDO community, right? For me, when I first got started building the pipeline, working crazy, trying to pump everything together and really getting traction, it was then that I kind of realized how inefficient I could be, right? And, at that time, Chris, you were sales manager at the time. And I remember that in your office, before you had those wonderful caricatures of Austin Porter, happy birthday, by the way, Austin Porter, shout outs. All it said was protect your time, if you remember that, right? And that really stuck with me because once you kind of get over the basics and you're actually in the process, you are actually managing some semblance of deal flow. You're understanding credit appetite, deals are starting to get approved. Everything is moving. You've got the 101 down. Protecting your time, in my opinion, becomes the most important piece to the puzzle for sustainable performance. Because there's a lot of ways you can get caught in the weeds. And there's a lot of things that I found for myself, at least, that I was able to correct in order to make better use of that time, which of course is the most valuable resource we have. Chris, is that still written behind those caricatures?
It is no longer written. It's ingrained into my mindset now, but I don't remember where I borrowed that phrase from. But as I was transitioning into the sales manager role and still trying to lend, I found that there were so many things pulling away from the most valuable use of my time. So I wanted to remind myself of something I need to do, which was protect my time. So I actually had it on my desktop. I had it on the whiteboard, and it was just subliminally, you see that. And when you're doing something that doesn't provide any value for your day and your job or whatever you're focused on, I would immediately stop doing it. If I was spending too much time on a pre-flight or a deal that I know just doesn't fit our box or trying to squeeze, a square peg in a round hole, I stopped immediately because I would see protect your time. And it would remind me to shift back to what my focus should be, which is making sure my team is good, making sure my lenders are producing, and making sure I was producing, and making sure I was bringing in partnerships. Anything outside of that, even if it was adjacent, that was not my focus at that time. Now, outside of work, I can focus on nonprofit stuff, all the other things that I do for work-life balance. But during the workday, I wanted to be laser focused on what is the most valuable use of my time and not veer from that. And I think that's important. As a BDO, you can have referral sources that send you deals that don't fit your credit box. and they continue to send you deals, right? Because they don't have a good network and they're continuing to send you stuff. You can be the type of BDO that has long, drawn out conversations with those brokers that say, hey, this doesn't fit, here's why, and just continue to do that. Or you can say, hey, this doesn't fit, and the type of deals you fit don't really fit our box. So let me connect you with Alan over at First Internet. Let me connect you to this lender that can actually do the deals that you bring in, and you're going to get more efficient that way. So that's kind of the origin story of the protect your time. And it became a phrase because I had it in so many places in my old office that people thought I was a little bit strange, but everyone knew me and they would yell out, protect your time, PYT, and it became a thing.
Yeah, but it's a real thing that you start to struggle with as you become more and more successful as a BDO. You know, when you first start out, you have nothing but time, right? That's kind of your secret weapon that you really can bring to the market is that, hey, I have more time than the rest of these BDOs to work on your deal, sir, and your deal only because your deal's all I got right now, right? So you work super hard on that. But what ends up happening is over time, as you start to grow and more people start to figure out who you are as a lender, then you start to get busy and these deals start to kind of come out of the woodwork. I mean, at this point, it's hard to even know where all my deals are going to come from. I have so many vague referral sources that may send me one deal a quarter. And then I have a few that send me deals every week. But for the most part, the deals just kind of come, and they come from other banks sometimes. They come from all over the place. They start to just come out of the woodwork. And so you start to get really busy. And honestly, the opportunity can start to kill you. Because if you're like a squirrel and you're chasing every nut and every acorn that falls out of the tree, sometimes you forget what's important. And at the end of the day, that's getting deals from start to finish. That's actually term sheeting deals. That's getting deals into underwriting. That's getting deals into closing. That's ultimately closing loans. If you're not actually getting deals moving in your process, if that's not your focus to actually stop deals from bottlenecking and actually getting them to the finish line, then what's going to end up happening is you're going to have a million term sheets out on the street, but you're never actually going to eat because you're never actually going to close anything. So it's important that you protect your time and utilize it to really further the deal and then further yourself as a BDO, because at the end of the day, the only thing that everyone cares about at the end of the year is your number and how much you got closed.
So if I could hold value, if we could put value on your time, where do you start? Do you sort of like isolate it to you? Do you isolate it to your team? Is it a whole moving part? How do you guys put value on your time as BDOs? Why don't we go with Ryan?
That's an easy and a hard answer to a question to answer altogether, because you want to focus your times on what's hot right now. And that just really goes back to knowing your deals and knowing your customer base, and more importantly, knowing your referral sources. So what's the hot topic? What deal is on fire right now that you really have to take care of? You really have to devote all your attention to right in that moment. Generally during the week, I like to schedule and I like to stack my days in a certain way. For example, Tuesdays and Fridays are the days that I'm going to be meeting with prospects. I'm going to be meeting with COIs. I'm going to be having breakfast, lunch, late afternoon coffee, late morning coffee. Those are my in-person visits that I like to do, site visits and sit and meet with people on those days. Mondays and Thursdays are usually my busiest days. That's when I'm in the office. I'm pounding out term sheets. I'm putting fires out. Mondays, I'm checking up at the beginning of the week, seeing what deals need my attention in closing, what deals need my attention in underwriting, and what deals need my attention post term sheet. And then Thursdays, I'm doing the same thing going into the weekend, because I know Fridays I'm stacked out on doing site visits, meeting with clientele. Everybody loves Fridays. So that's why I do those things on Fridays. People are loose. They're looking for towards the weekend. They're easier to engage. Fridays are the best days to actually have those type of in-person one-on-one meetings. Mondays, people are fresh and they're ready to go, but they're not thinking about you. They're thinking about what they've got to do that day and what they have to do for the week. So those are the worst times to sit in front of somebody and try to explain a structure and try to explain the process.
I agree with that, actually.
Yeah, thank you.
The Monday
thing. The Monday thing is strictly for in-office busy work, because so much happens over the weekend. So much happens within our office, so much happens with our customer base over the weekend. You have to catch up and you have to start organizing and prioritizing those issues that need your immediate attention that morning and those that might be able to wait till the next day or even Wednesday. One good piece of advice that I've learned a long time ago that I would give you, it kind of piggybacks on what Sterling and Chris had to say, that I would give to a young BDO is learn to structure your deal quickly. Learn to structure your deal quickly and learn to structure it effectively, because that will give you the best basis on whether it's a quick no or you're just giving your client and your COI a slow bleed. You want to be able to know that if it's not going to be a deal you're going to be able to do, you can't structure it in a certain way to get it done. You got to kick it to the curb. You got to either give it to somebody else that you know, or you just got to flat out decline it. And you got to know those things up front. It's asking the right questions up front. It's finding out what their pain points are. It's figuring out what's going to be beneficial for them. And more importantly, it's what they want out of the transaction. Once you figure all that out, and unfortunately, a lot of this just takes reps. You just have to know your customer base. You have to know the product. You have to know what you're doing when it comes down to your underwriting box for you to be able to adequately and effectively structure a deal that you can either get done or it's not going to happen. And that'll give you the best way to give a decision up front where you're not going to spend time on this deal you know is not going to go anywhere. You're going to tell your referral source, sorry, move it off to the back. And this one that you know is going to get done, you're going to pay attention to it right away and even be able to prioritize those. Yeah, I can get this one done, but nobody else is going to do it. So it's a priority, but I'm going to do this one that I know is hot. It's a slam dunk and every bank in town is going to be all over it. I got to be that first term sheet in their hands. I got to be the first one on the phone with them because they're dealing with a loan broker. So I got to give that one my utmost attention. It's things like that a lot of it takes reps. A lot of it takes just having some experience in the industry. But again, that's why we have this show, so we can give you a little pieces of gold nuggets here on what to look for to be a better BDO.
How about Alan or Sterling? How do you guys place value on your time?
Well, as I said earlier, as I've gotten busier, both inside and outside of the bank, I have started to value my time more because I realize more and more that my time is valuable. And I think that one thing people need to really recognize is that, if your time is valuable, don't be afraid to treat it like it's valuable. I think sometimes everyone almost wants to be humble to a fault when they don't really necessarily respect the value that they do bring to the table. But if you're a successful lender, BDO, or just successful in life, do realize that, you've worked hard to create the value that you bring to the table. And so it is fair to ask people to recognize that. Perfect example, I have a deal right now where, I have a referral source that's asking, quite a bit in terms of a check that they would like at the closing table, which would, eat into my commission, while at the same time they're asking me to essentially bend over backwards to close in a, quite frankly, almost unrealistic time frame. Now, it's something I think I could probably accomplish, but to ask that favor of me to essentially drop everything and work on that deal to get it to the finish line, while at the same time asking me to take a really large chunk out of my commission, I don't think that's really fair. And to be frank, I'd rather pass on that deal and let somebody else go spin their wheels for, hoping to hit a 4-week full turnaround time, as opposed to lose out on my commission. I don't feel like that really is a fair trade for the services that I bring to the table. So as I told Austin, I'm going to stand on business, right? Which is really my slang term for saying, yeah, I'm going to protect my time because I know my value. And so if you don't value me, that's okay. But the thing is, guys, if you're going to go to the market and you're going to say, I have value, when somebody calls you on that, you actually have to stand on business and actually recognize that you do have value, and you have to be willing to walk away when someone's not going to meet that. Because otherwise, you're just negotiating against yourself anyways.
Right.
That's right. And if I could capitalize on what Sterling just said, not only do you need to recognize you have value, but also understand you are the subject matter expert. You understand SBA and SBA lending better than pretty much anybody else in that field of business acquisitions or whatever your client is trying to do with the capital that you're going to lend them. So understand that when you're dealing with small business owners and small business buyers, more than likely, this is probably going to be the first business they've ever bought or ever stepped into, or it's going to be the first SBA loan that they've ever obtained. So you need to understand that when you're having those prospecting calls, or you're talking to somebody that you know this is going to be their first SBA loan, or you know this is going to be their first business acquisition, you're going to need to block off some time to be able to explain and spoon feed, and more importantly, just walk them through the entire process, because it's going to be a lengthy conversation. You can't sit here and say, oh, I've got to call Mr. Smith back. He's going to buy this business. That should be an easy 10-minute conversation. That's not going to happen. You know, you're going to know when you can have those 10-minute conversations, when you've had the seasoned borrower, the guy who's had 3 or 4 business loans. He's had them with you. I've got several clients that I've financed their business 3 or 4 times over again over the past decade, that when they call me, I know it's going to be a 5 to 10 minute conversation. He's going to give me the meat and potatoes. He already knows how I operate. We're going to give it back and forth, and then that's it. It's a done deal. But with your new prospect, you've got to be able to feel out from your referral source, or whomever your individual is that referred you to them, and figure out if this is their first SBA loan or not, if this is their first rodeo or not, and take your time. Schedule a nice big block of time and be prepared to go over everything in detail. Do not get frustrated. My wife tells me all the time, look, you're the subject matter expert. Take your time. Schedule it at another time if you don't have the time to sit down and talk with them. I learned that years ago from her and other people in the industry, and I'm really glad that's a lesson that I got given to me at a very crucial time.
I love that, Ryan.
Yeah, I love that. One thing I started doing probably in the past year, I forget who I learned it from, but they schedule meetings in 10 to 15 minute increments. So for your more seasoned borrowers, seasoned brokers, I think everyone's so used to saying, hey, let's meet for a half an hour. You schedule a Zoom or a team for a half an hour block, and you have that blocked on your calendar. If you actually just do 15-minute increments, those are 2 more meetings you get in that hour, right? If you go from 2 30 minutes to 4 15 minutes, right? So you're making more use of your time. And probably that call ends prior to the 15 minutes, but then you've got another 5 minutes to double check a term sheet, follow up on an expense deposit, an appraisal,
emails.
Return a couple of emails, right? But if you're blocking 30 minutes out
to people who work for you,
eventually pay sterling. It's going to happen, I promise, this year. But if you're blocking out large chunks of time, especially for borrowers that should know what they're doing, if they're repeat borrowers or referral sources that already know the game, then you're wasting your time. And another thing I would say, no one cares about your time like you do. So don't assume that the person you're speaking to really values your time. You're the only one that actually does. So you have to act accordingly. You go around just scheduling hours of block. Someone would gladly talk to you for an hour or 2 about SBA finance, especially a new borrower that wants to start a trampoline park. I don't know, whatever it may be. They talk to you for an hour, because we're also going to get this knowledge from Sterling.
We're not even doing those deals.
But my point is, you have
let
to
me know we found the first deal the internet won't do right here live on the BDO Show.
Listen, I'm still 35. I'm financing that.
There you go. Send it to me first.
I'm financing a utopian society that you passed on, Sterling. Continue.
What even is that?
Don't worry about it. If you follow Sterling online,
okay.
You know what I'm talking about.
I got it.
Pay us 1% for that, please. We want our referral fee.
Oh my God.
That's a way to save some time too, is having the right partners, other lenders at other banks that can do the deals. When you get them, you immediately see this is a startup, whatever type of business, startup. I don't do these. I know this person at this bank does it. Quickly connect them via email and move on.
Yeah, I want to follow on that if I could, real quick. Chris, when you identify that, I want to share with new BDOs, right? I talk about this all the time, right? You need that attitude of abundance. You can't be in a position of desperation. You would be surprised how many referral sources of mine give me first look because they know if I can't get home on it, but the deal still has merit, I know where to send them.
You can place it.
And you still, you remain in that ecosystem. So don't be afraid to say, listen, we don't do this. So-and-so does that. Keep me in mind because this is what I'm looking for. You can keep that relationship. I think that I was gun shy to provide that extra value in the beginning. And now it's something that consistently keeps people coming to me and I get first crack.
And here's the other thing too. don't be afraid if you have relationships with other BDOs, good relationships with other BDOs at other banks, to refer them deals that you know your bank won't do. And don't be afraid. Don't do exactly. My grandma's.
You're Detroit show and tuck in that Red Wings jersey, young man.
Don't do.
Detroit Public Schools for you. Excuse me. Don't be afraid that you think this other BDO is going to take your referral source. If it is a referral source that truly respects you, if it's a referral source that you've built an actual relationship with, they're still going to give you first look. And they're going to respect you for introducing them to another BDO that's going to be able to do deals that you just can't do. I've got several referral sources who will always give me first look, but they also know some backup BDOs when I can't get things done. So don't be afraid to do that.
We've covered a couple things from past episodes just now. We talked about kind of being the leader of your tribe, protecting your team, making sure everything keeps flowing as it's supposed to. We talked about, no trash talking other lenders, like always, become friends with everybody, pass deals off, know your surroundings. We're going to get a little bit into work-life balance. I want to talk about, because we went from working in the offices full time, pandemic, working home. How do you protect your time with your family and friends? Because we talked about how to turn work off and bring family and your life back in, but how do you turn your life and family off in a positive way as a new BDO coming into this, either working from an office or working from home? Anybody can take this one, because
are you asking how to spend less time with your family? Is that the question?
No. My question is, how do you politely tell your family when you're home and you've got kids maybe home on spring break or summer break, or you've got a wife maybe that works from home? How do you protect your time as a lender? I guess wherever you are, wherever you work from,
have office hours. I'm serious. Have office hours for your clientele. Have office hours for your family. I'm fortunate enough that I do have my own office off-site with other people, so I can kind of get away from that. But when I do come home, I have office hours for my clientele between 9 and 5. For my VIPs, it's between 8 and 6. So, I do that purposely because my top referral sources or my top customer base, sometimes I could just have one of those days that are just hectic. I'm just grinding, and I just can't get through all the phone calls. And if somebody's been trying to get a hold of me and they know I can't get back with them, they can say to themselves, well, that's not like Ryan. Let me call him between 5 and 6. I know he's told me I can call him between that time and he will answer. And I will. For my VIPs, and they know who they are, I've told them who they are, they can call me between 5 and 6 and I will answer. Now, I do the same thing for my kids. My kids and my wife, they understand that when I'm in my home office, and my home office has one of those glass doors with the border on it so they can see me and I can see them. When that door is closed, you don't bother Dad. All right, Dad's working, Dad's grinding, he's focusing on the task at hand. I may be on a call. So sometimes my wife will come in and she'll look, and I'll kind of give her an eye, and then she'll hold up a sandwich. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm ready for lunch. Come on in. But other times if I'm on the phone, she'll look, she'll give me an eye, and I'll point to my ear, or I'll point to the screen. She'll know I'm on a Zoom call or I'm on a phone call, and she'll just slide in and kind of put it out of screenshot so that I can enjoy it later. But my kids always know, you don't knock, you don't make any faces. Definitely don't make any faces. When that door is closed, it's work time. But they also know 6 p.m. comes around, all bets are off, because I've made a promise to my family that work hours end at 6. So when 6 o'clock comes, it's all fair game. It's time for me to pour into my kids, my 4 beautiful daughters, and my beautiful wife of 24 years. Yeah, and when you talk to customers about that and you explain it to them, majority of your client base have families. They understand how important it is to spend time with your families. So I have never had any pushback from any of my customers, any of my referral source on holding office hours and holding them to it and holding my family to it. Never had pushback, because they understand that family is important.
My situation, I'm working from home, and I have a 2-year-old daughter, a 3-year-old daughter, an 85-pound German Shepherd, and a wife who is beautiful. See, I told you, I get husband and father advice from you, Krogi. I know I told you that personally as well. But during that time, I make it abundantly clear, if Daddy doesn't do any loans, you will never go to Disney World again. And then they just, I'm joking. No, I'm the same way, man. I leave the door shut, and when the door's shut, that's fine. If I'm just banging spreads or doing paperwork, I'll leave it kind of open. And I want them to know that I'm not, whatever. But I feel that that's a mutual respect thing. Just like you said, right? It's like two ways. It's my partners know that I've got a young family and I'll get back to them. And my family knows that I've got a job to do. And sometimes it means not home. Even though I'm working from home, I am not home until, 6 o'clock.
Yeah, no, I'm lucky that, at this point, my son is 11 months old, so he's not really looking for me anyways. As a matter of fact, most of the time my wife hands him to me, he starts crying and asks to go back to her. So, he actually just took his first steps today, though. So shout out to him.
Shout out to
Pierce is going to be walking before his first birthday, it looks like. So
did he walk towards you or away from you?
He ran to the mom.
No, it's funny. Yeah. So we were sitting next to each other trying to get him to walk to one of us off the couch, and he shows me exactly 0 times. So, that's always, we always got that going for us.
He was protecting his walking time. Like he was like, this is my first time.
No.
He's protecting his time with mommy. There's for sure. Right. His dad,
if I'm doing this, I'm going to the right person.
His time with daddy has 0 protection. Okay. It's like a Chris Hackney weekend. Anyways, we're just
leave that in the episode, please. Do not cut that.
Yeah, but no.
Leave it in.
Time and protecting everything is certainly super important. So, no, my wife, she understands it. Similar to Ryan's wife. She actually does. She brings food into me here during the day when I'm grinding away.
Aww.
And she'll open the door and make sure that I'm not on a phone call or something like that. And then she'll come in and slide in my Steve Hoshak meal, which is basically
looks like a high protein meal she's feeding you, kid. Look at you,
shredded chicken on a plate with like some sauce on it and some broccoli, and that's it. But yeah, no, it definitely takes cooperation from your family. Your family has to understand that essentially we're all kind of in this together, right? We're all rowing in the same direction. Rising tide, lifts all boats, right? So, my wife is blessed to not have to work, and she could focus on being a stay-at-home parent. And, we're able to do this because of the income that I make as a BDO, right? So we are all kind of in this boat together. And so, she needs me to be successful, and I want her to be successful as a stay-at-home mom. So we all kind of work as unison.
So we've talked about how you guys have protected your time in the office, out of the office, with your brokers, with your employees. Can we talk about how maybe you have wasted your time and you've corrected it as you've advanced your career? I mean, maybe you were taking 2-hour lunches because you kind of are your own boss. You kind of,
if you don't have a live deal, don't ever ask me to have a coffee. Right. The commute alone, right. It's obnoxious to request that in post-COVID business.
Yes.
Let's get into it. Let's get spicy about wasted time. This is going to be a good one. Retaining relationship is huge. Face-to-face is huge. But for me to wait in traffic for 45 minutes to drink coffee with you for 30 minutes about nothing specifically that can be addressed on a phone call, a Zoom call, or an email, just to commute another 45 minutes back, it's not a good use of my time. In the very beginning, I was so excited, like, hey, he's got CPA after his name, and he wants to have coffee with me. Yippee, right? And then flash forward like a month, and you realize what an absolute waste it really is. And it's tricky because there's some great referral partners out there that prefer to do that kind of old school face-to-face. That's important. But what I'm finding is those folks are just as willing in the early stages to kind of get a rundown of what we do, what we don't do. Is there synergy? Should we connect? If we do connect, do we have to go, what's the best use of their time as well? But, I'm kind of exaggerating the point of never wanting to get coffee, but it is honestly very much true. I took a lot of coffee appointments. That was a total waste of time.
And that's an excellent point, Al. And I was going to make that point earlier, and I'm glad you brought it up. That's why I try to have a quick conversation or texting or email back and forth. Because I do so many deals locally here in Metro Detroit, I get a lot of old school borrowers who've done business before who just call me up and say, let's meet for coffee. let's meet for lunch. I need to see you and talk to you about something. Okay, great. What is it? Well, let's have lunch first. I said, I would love to have lunch with you. There's nothing more that I'd like to do. Just catch up and see how things are going. But I've got a really hectic week this week. Why don't you tell me the bullet points on exactly what you got going on so I can be prepared with some really creative responses for you when we do have lunch? Boom, opens the door. Make good use of the time. Okay, Ryan, I've got this, that, and the other, and great. Structure it. That is worth my time. Let's go have lunch. Or I really don't have anything. I just wanted to ask you about this, that, and the other. Well, ask me the questions now. We'll set up lunch for another time when I've got plenty of time, because I do value you. I value your relationship, and we can get together and just chew the fat. If I know it's just a chew the fat meeting, I know how to schedule it. If I know that it's a prospecting meeting, I know how to schedule that. And then I can try to schedule other site meetings before, after, or after. But you got to feel them out first. You got to find out if it's worth your time in that moment, or if you got to schedule it 1 or 2 weeks down the road.
Chris, with your elevated role that you just kind of found yourself in recently, how do you not waste your time?
No one congratulated me for the new role, by the way, but thanks. That's
congrats.
Congratulations, him.
6 weeks later.
Good job.
Totally fine. Good job.
It was prepared.
I said elevated role, not like promotion.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
It's like the word that she was like, it was an entanglement. You're like, oh, okay.
That's what, at the BDO retreat.
Employee.
Hey, yo.
At the BDO retreat, I remember thinking about clever ways to bring up a congrats to you hack, but then Sterling beat me way to the punch, as usual. So there was that.
What did he say?
We were all like sharing game at the BDO retreat, which is the purpose of that, honestly, is just open air trade secrets. And I was thinking to myself, like, man, I'd love to incorporate some way to compliment Chris, a guy that, I really admire, blah, 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 blah. And then as we were going around the room on something unrelated, Sterling's like, oh, and by the way, there was a big deal happened over here. Chris was promoted to the president of SBA lending. And I was clapping thinking, it could have been me. but you took me to a Drake concert, so I'm still in your good graces.
There you
so
go.
that's what it's
Hey,
all about.
yo. We're all friends here. How do I protect my time in my new role?
As the prez.
You just really have to focus on what's important to the strategic plan. I keep the strategic plan on my desktop, and a lot of times I'll look at it from time to time and am I doing what's on this plan on a daily basis, or am I looking at partnerships that are not in our plan? Am I hiring people that aren't the right fit for this plan? Where are we headed? And when you get into leadership roles, even as a BDO, you need to be thinking now and future state as well, right? My production is this, but how do I get to 40 million by the end of the year, 50 million? Who do I need to be? Am I tracking to that goal? So a lot of times I protect my time by just making sure I'm on track with our strategic plan for the SBA division. If I'm doing an activity or if I'm in the weeds or working on some minutia that is not a good use of my time, I'll immediately stop and delegate and find someone else to do it. You can do that as a BDO as well if you have sales assistant, or maybe you hire a virtual assistant to help you with, there's things like expense reports. There's all sorts of things that can suck your time away from doing what you do best as far as making loans. That's the job. You're developing business. That's the name of the game. Anything outside of that is a waste of your time. So find a way to either no longer do those tasks completely or eliminate them. If there are tasks that are still required, find a way to delegate those tasks. So that's what I do. What's important to me, what's important to our bank, anything outside of that, who else can help me and how can I delegate that to someone else? And
I remember us planning this show. We all had to talk about a day and a time that worked for your busy, like your insane schedules. That was the biggest point of apprehension for me, is the time that it would take to do this. I obviously I'd hang out with y'all at any time if we could, but I said, I don't know if we could all find 1 hour block that all 4 or 5 of us could get together on a recurring basis. And producers and people to edit. It was like, it was a big deal for all of us to be together in this room, and it's been amazing. So I'm happy that we all figured that out. Any last bits of advice about protecting your time for any of the new BDOs that are just starting out.
Just maybe a parting thought. Just remember, if you don't protect your time, no one will.
Right.
Absolutely.
And they'll take advantage of you too.
And I would write it down on your desktop, write it on a board. So that way you have that sort of North Star, protect your time. You'll always see it. And subliminally, you'll always remember to protect your time.
Protect your neck.
What about really quick? Do you guys think it would be worth it for all of us to be together in one room to do a recording
Finally,
at some point?
yes, it's time for us to be together.
Can we do it in Detroit?
Yes.
No,
Absolutely not. No, we're
it's so cold up here. I think we should.
Florida.
I think we should go to Florida.
I love Detroit.
All season.
This is the
Florida?
everybody
I can do
in
Florida.
the Detroit versus everybody. This is the everybody.
This is
This is the everybody from the shirt. Yeah.
Syracuse
Except
doesn't
for
even
me.
want the heat. I'm all set.
I love Little Caesars.
Ew.
Shout out to Little Caesars.
Yeah.
Shout out.
I
We
like
should
how
get
we're like
together.
promoting Peloton and Little Caesars. This is great. This
Should we
is
do it in
doubled
Tampa?
up.
Should we come down? Should we?
I think we should go to Tampa.
Yeah, let's go to Tampa.
All right,
We
let's
could
do
dress
it.
up like pirates, like you guys do down there for a day.
There you go.
For
Last
Austin's birthday, let him book all of our flights. Tell him that's what we need done. So.
That's great. Tell them I'm
So
first.
we're
class
protecting
home.
our time. Of course, that doesn't even need to be
We got
said.
to protect our time by having somebody do our flights on their birthday. This is great. All right. Well, I just want to thank everybody for joining us again. Who knows? Maybe at some point we'll all be together in the same room. And don't forget to share, subscribe, like, and make sure you guys are just getting us out there because, again, these shows are making wave on social media platforms all over the place, and we want to hear from you. And again, you might be able to see us together in one room at the same time. So go ahead and subscribe. Send your topics and suggestions over to the BDO Show at gmail.com, and we will see you all soon. Thank you.